Alright guys, welcome back. It's video 11. We are going to assemble these roof truss pieces that we put together, and we are going to finish up this roof hopefully. Let's see what we can get done here. So I'm going to just move these out of the way a little bit. I'm going to bring back into play the model wall project, or the models, the walls of the model project, little model house project. And what I want to do is, now I'm going to actually tilt this thing down. We're going to reverse it a little bit. And I'm just doing it so that it's kind of facing me. We can set these trusses in here. If we lay this down this way, you can see that this just barely fits over the end here. That's what we want. So I'm just doing it like this to give you guys your perspective so you can see kind of what we're doing. So this needs to be glued on here so that this sits nice and flat like that. And then these will need to come over here as well and hook onto this thing like this. So I'm going to glue these on while this thing is actually standing up, which you won't be able to see the spacing quite as well, but it's going to make it easier for me in the glue. I want you to take a note that I mentioned this in the other video, that I had already put marks here as to where everything's going to go, 2 inches apart. So let me stand this model up. Let's get some glue on here, and let's get to work. I need to make sure I'm wearing my safety glasses before we start working, and I need to grab my towel. Pause the video, I'll be right back. Let me grab a quick wet paper towel. Alright, I got a wet paper towel here, so we are good to go. I got a glue bottle. Now I'm going to start by just putting a little bit of, actually let's take a look at where this thing sits. So it's going to cover basically that whole strip. Okay, so I need to put glue along this whole thing. Now what we need to do is even it out. Make sure we're getting coverage over all the edges. It's kind of thin. I like it to be a little thicker than that so it squishes it just a little bit. I want a little bit of squeeze out to make sure we got a good glue wood connection. That's pretty good. And part of the reason I'm making that so thick is because I'm not putting it on both pieces. I only put it on the one piece. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sink this down into this model here where it goes, and hold this in place here. Now in order to get this to stay, see if I can find my good old blue tape. Rip a piece of this tape. Oh, let that sit there for a second. I'm going to rip these pieces in half. You can use any tape you got. You could use your little clamps that you got. I think the clamps might be a little bit aggressive for this. Seems kind of delicate, so I'm just gonna tape it. It just feels like the right thing to do. All right. All right, so that's got some glue on it. That's gonna set up right there. This is nice and even. This whole front is nice and flat. That's really important. Now let's come back here to this back area here. The reason we have this one on its side is the same reason why we have a 3-piece corner here, this 2-piece corner here with one turn on end, and that's so that we have drywall backing. If you go in to put some kind of a sheet good material in here, like let's say this wall gets covered with drywall in the future, you got to make sure that this corner has a place to put nails in it for the sheets that are on that wall and the sheets that's on this wall. And the same thing with the ceiling. The ceiling is going to need a place in this top corner up here in order to put a screw when you're looking at it from underneath. So let's go ahead and get this next joist up here. So for the next one, I'm going to go ahead and put glue in here and then just right here where it's going to sit. It's going to be a little harder spot to glue, but I think we can manage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of these little sticks. Use one of my popsicle sticks. We can spread with it, and then I can just wipe it off when we're done. We'll clean it with a rag. Now we get a good glue surface in there. Okay. All right, so now this wants to go on so that this truss, let's see if I can do this without getting glue on everything. Oh, it's a little bit tight. We want this truss to be away from the front of the building. Oh, those don't line up very well. So I got a bad angle going here. No. Looks like this didn't get pulled up enough in my model, so I'm going to have to modify it a little bit to make that work. This needs to be angled down until that lines up. Here. And so what I'm going to do to hold these in place is I'm going to probably have to put a little piece of tape on this because it's bouncing around. I think the clamp would possibly just break that. So let's see if we can. Let's try and see if we can get some tape on this. I think I reused this tape like 20 times. Just need a narrow piece of tape. Doesn't need to be too big. So let's do this. Before I lock that one in place, I'm going to come over here and verify that we're at the 2-inch mark. Okay, so that's 2 inches there. That's 2 inches there, and I'm measuring from outside to outside here. Okay, so that's outside to inside, outside to inside. So this needs to come over this way so that it's the same, and then we'll lock that in right there. And then we'll come over here, and we'll measure this side the same way. This needs to come this way a little bit. Okay, and then this is going to need to rock back till this lines up. Now, let's see if we can get one more of these things on here. So we'll get this glue up here. Looks like the dye might be coming off this popsicle stick. Let's see. Again, I'm going to make sure that this is in the back of the model. I want them to be facing the same direction. This one's just going to be right even with the rear ridge beam. And this one here, I'm just going to put this. You'll notice that earlier I had two lines. Actually, this needs to come in like that so that this here lines up right there with the ridge. Okay. I know this one's not going to be the full 2-inch spacing. It's just the remainder, and that's fine. It's just the last one in the series, and usually you'll have a little bit smaller space during the last one. Let's get rid of some of this unneeded glue. Okay. So I'm just double checking that everything is sitting tightly on the plates so that the glue, oh, I just totally hit it. So that the glue, hold that down for a second. The glue can hold itself and dry there. I'm going to add a couple of beads to glue in a few places so that this will have a little bit more strength as it dries. Okay, those will help hold it in place. And I got everything situated kind of where I want it. Looks good. Okay, I'm going to clean my glue bottle. And that's the remainder, that's the finished part of the framing. So there are a few other components in a full-size home that we would have that we're not really showing here. And those would include, there probably would need to be in this design a little angular brace that would go right here that would stop the roof from racking forward and back. And in addition to that, we would have outlookers, which would be little pieces that would go on the roof and they would hang out over the front. This ridge beam would normally not get flush cut like this. It would hang out over the front on an older home, especially the houses we have in Thousand Oaks. And then we would use that to attach another board along here, which is the fascia. So we have overhang not only on the sides, but here along this front. These little pieces here would get notched in to all of these pieces and then hang out however far you have it hanging out here. And those would be called your outlookers. That's just a little too much detail for the time we have in this class, so we're going to leave those out. Modern advanced framing or green framing is now actually starting to do things a little differently. It's a little bit more like this model in that the ridge might be cut flush like this. And we would put some decorative pieces on here where this is completely plywood sheeted or covered, and then we would then build on an extension brow from there that's going to give us the overhang. And the reason we do that is so we can really air seal all that air inside. They also would try to eliminate some of these double top plates, maybe with a larger piece, so you don't have the seam here, or you got to glue in between them when you're building a real house so you don't have that air leaking through. These 3-post corners right here, which is actually a 4-post, and you add this piece over here. This 4-post is also not something you'd see too much in a modern house as much as doing a design like this one over here, because you can tuck insulation in behind it, which we're going to play with in the next video. So what we have left to do is We have some insulation that I had everybody get in the kits that we're going to be putting in some of the wall cavities just a little bit. We've got some plywood, which is this cardboard that we're going to use to put on the structure in a couple of places. We have some roofing felt that we're going to put up here, and then we have some Tyvek. I got to figure out where I set my piece of Tyvek, but we have that white Tyvek paper, which we're going to put a little bit on top of here, and then some siding strips down low, just a little bit of it to get an idea of what would be the order of things. And then we're all done with this thing. So we'll come out and finish this thing up in the next video, and then we'll be able to turn it in with some pictures and measurements and show it off. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you got any questions, please contact me. Let me know.